Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Good evening. And thank you so much for joining us this evening for King Week 2021. And this is our Education Night event. My name is Nadira Mayweather, Director of the Cultural Center at Georgia College, and I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of our honorees and to all of those that are here with us physically, as well as those of you out there that are joining us virtually. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. I'd also like to extend a thank you to all of our City Council. We're sitting tonight in the City Council chambers, and they are graciously allowing our honorees to sit in their seats to read and to share their submissions tonight. I'd also like to thank our City Manager, Mr. Hank Griffith, for your collaboration and for the hospitality in allowing us to utilize this beautiful facility this evening. It's an honor to be here for this occasion. Thank you to the Office of Inclusive Excellence, our Chief Diversity Officer, Dr. Carolyn Denard. Thank you also to University Communications and to the MLK Planning Committee at Georgia College for the collaboration to make King Week 2021 a reality. Thank you also to Dr. Norris Price, our superintendent, and to all of the dedicated administrators, faculty, and staff at our schools that have worked so hard to help make tonight a reality. Tonight, we come to honor the brilliant minds and precious souls within our school system. Tonight, students both here and virtually, we come to honor you. This is Education Night, an evening in which we celebrate the winners of our King Week 2021 Literary Response Competition. It's also a time in which we reflect on the principles preached through the life, words, and writings of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. The theme of this King Week 2021 is Where Do We Go From Here? And it's based on his book of the same title, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? We submitted and asked students to submit topics based on prompts based on the principles identified in one of his books. Students were asked to either submit an essay or a poem that would address and demonstrate through example their understanding of ways to make the world a better place, as well as describe the concepts of economic justice with a focus on improving race relations, living conditions, the workforce, and/or education in our nation and in our community. We excitedly received over 70 submissions, and we are very thankful for your time and dedication that the students and schools put into this, despite the tight timelines that we know that we asked of you. The MLK Planning Committee reviewed the submissions and had the very tough task of selecting the winners that you see before you tonight, as there were so many great submissions. So please join me in giving a very large round of applause to the honorees that are with us tonight. And thank you also to all of those students that submitted. Please know that although not selected as the winners here, you are winners in our hearts, and we enjoyed your submissions. We would also like to thank and applaud everyone that worked to give their time towards this great cause. Tonight, we reflect upon the ethical leadership that impacts our K-12 school system, as well as education at the higher education level. Leadership has a profound impact on the positive outcomes of our school system, and we are thankful for our leaders in both the K-12 and higher ed systems. Please give a warm welcome to Superintendent Dr. Norris Price as she comes with remarks, followed by our Interim Associate Dean for the College of Education at Georgia College, Dr. Nicole DeClouet.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It is a pleasure to be here tonight to listen to the wonderful literary work of our scholars that are sitting here before us. The goal of this evening is to ensure that we honor Dr. Martin Luther King's legacy by highlighting what he considered to be one of the most influential factors in paving the way to a successful future: education. Dr. King himself understood the importance of education in advancing the condition of minorities and eliminating long-standing societal prejudice. As a teenage undergraduate student at Morehouse College, King wrote a forward-thinking column titled "The Purpose of Education" for the university newspaper. Even at a young age, his writing demonstrated both a broad intellect and a deep understanding of the challenges faced by society at the time, and the best way to overcome them. His conclusions remain just as poignant today as they did then. He knew that great education laid the foundation of a great society, and one that is ethically and morally sound. He stressed that education expands our vision and develops capabilities to fight injustice. And I want you to know that I stand before you today as the superintendent of the Baldwin County School District because of education. I am the first person in my family to graduate from high school, and I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college. My parents only had a sixth grade education, but they knew the importance of education, and they knew that if we at least graduated from high school, that we would have a successful life. But thanks to educators in my life, thanks to my guidance counselor, who helped me to fill out my college applications, my financial application, and took me to visit colleges, I was able to go to college, graduate, and become a teacher. So today, I want to remind our young scholars that you are in a country where you get to dream and you get to be whatever you set your mind to. You can only do that if you continue the path of getting your education with the support of your families, the educators, and your friends and community. So we are standing behind you to let you know that we are here to support you, and I'm looking forward to listening to your essay. I also want you to know that Dr. King also reminded others that by being educated, one can break out of poverty, you can break the cycle of poverty, you can overcome racism, and you can stand out as an equal with all people of different races, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status. Each of us in this room play a role in our schools, in our community, in our workplace, in our family to bring equality to everyone. We must pass the lessons of history to the next generation. That is you. We must pass the lesson to the next generation so you can recognize Dr. King's legacy, which is to drive meaningful societal change, empowering millions of people to stand up for justice and equality. Dr. King taught us that the power is inside of all of us, just ordinary people who can come together and work together, and in doing so, will thrive together. Therefore, I'm challenging each of you, the future generation here before us, to please work on creating a brighter future for this nation and for us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadira, and thank you, the King Week Planning Committee, for inviting me here tonight. As Nadira said, my name's Nicole, and I'm the Associate Dean of the College of Education, and I'm here to extend a very warm welcome to you all, recipients of these awards, and to all of you in the audience. What we do in the College of Education is train teachers and leaders to take up positions in school systems throughout Georgia and beyond. We do this in part because we understand that educating students is the key to our futures. You see, when I retire in about 15 years, the students here in elementary school will be in their early 20s and will be probably finishing college and starting their careers. Students in middle school will be in their late 20s, and the students in high school will be in their early 30s. So you all, in your early adulthoods, will start to take on leadership positions in the management of our country and in making decisions about how we live our lives. So to educate today's children is to invest in your own future, to invest in our futures, both individually and collectively. That very important work that we do in the College of Education would be impossible without our partnership with Baldwin County Schools and other partner school districts. Our teacher candidates, our students at Georgia College, tell us the very best part of their educational programs is the time they get to spend with you all in schools. This is where they get to see the knowledge and skills and dispositions that we teach them in the college. They get to see them enacted in schools by students and teachers and leaders. So these school sites are where we see the twin goals of knowledge and character growing and flourishing. Sure, it's important to teach students knowledge and skills and teach students the ability to learn and the ability to apply their learning outside of the classroom. But it's equally important that we nurture the moral growth and character of our students so that they can step into the roles of becoming ethical leaders when it's their time. Leaders who will know where we go from here. As our keynote speaker, Dr. Fluker, said on Tuesday night, we are the heirs of the vision of Dr. King. We are the ones to whom he has passed the torch. How will we respond? How will you respond? So on behalf of the College of Education, I want to personally congratulate each of you, the winners that are here tonight, and I can't wait to hear your contributions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Drs. Price and Dr. DeCloette. And now we've come to the portion of our program that we are super excited about, where we get to honor and celebrate our honorees. So here to introduce our primary level winners, we have Dr. Eric Carlisle from Midway Hills Academy.
Good evening, everyone. I am Eric Carlisle, principal of Midway Hills Academy. To all of our guests, congratulations to all of our winners. I have the privilege and honor of introducing two of the fabulous fourth grade students from Midway Hills Academy. And I will start with Miss Lauren Hurst. Lauren is a 9-year-old fourth grader. She's in the class of Miss Johnson and Miss Thomas. She has 2 brothers and a dog, and Lauren said she was inspired to write her poem because she cares about the world and thought that writing this poem would help her express her feelings about the current things that are happening in the world. She also said that she thought that putting hard work into her writing would really help her feel good about being a young lady and being a student in this world. Next, we have Mr. Zion Wesley, and Zion is also a fourth grade student in Miss Johnson and Miss Thomas's room. Zion is 10 years old. Zion has a brother, and he is a cat lover. He has a cat, and Zion said that he thought that writing on this topic would help him become a better writer. It would help him improve his writing skills. But he also liked this topic and being able to think about this and having an opportunity to show how he thought that he could help make the world a better place. So I'd like to introduce to all of you Miss Lauren Hurst and Mr. Zion Wesley, 2 of the fabulous students that we have at Midway Hills Academy. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lauren Hurst, and I'm Miss Thomas' class and Miss Johnson's. I'm finna read it. We all can improve racism, living conditions, and education in the world if all countries help each other. We can love like God loves us. We should treat people fairly. We need to follow laws against racism. All of these things are ways we can stop racism. We can volunteer and donate to programs like Habitat for We will help the community to stay clean, reduce litter and pollution. I would help homeless people by increasing food supply and housing. All these things are ways we can improve living conditions. My last idea is that we should improve education for kids in school. I hope they hire more teachers so there are not a lot of kids in the classroom. We need more technology to help online students and in person. We need 2 pizzas and 10 any kind of wings you want. And all of this are ways to improve education. All of the ways I listed to stop racism, to improve living conditions, and to improve education can be done. But we will need to treat people fairly, clean up our community, and hire more teachers. These are just a few ways we all can help.
I think we have a future superintendent.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zion Wesley, and I'm in Ms. Thomas and Ms. Johnson class. We can improve racism, living conditions, and education by becoming unified and knowing that we are somebody. We can improve racism by not being racist ourselves, to get other people to protest about racism. Then talk things out and don't be mean. How can we improve living conditions? We can pass out food to the homeless. Don't litter, recycle your paper and plastic. We can prevent people from being violent. Improving education is so important like the other 2 topics. We can come up with ways to buy more books by staying in school, finishing, and going to college. By studying more and paying attention in class, being a leader and not a follower. These are some ways that we can improve racism, living conditions, and education. One person cannot do this alone. We got to come together with one mind, one goal to carry out this mission.
Thank you so much to Lauren and Zion. Inspiring, right? Can you understand why they're winners? At this time, we'll have their principal present their certificates to them on behalf of us and Georgia College and the school system. And in each of your bags, there are gifts for all of you. So in order to keep from having you move back and forth, we're just going to come to you, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's give them another round of applause. Yeah, if you'll just stand, just these top the shoes. And then we also have a gift for the administrator and the teacher, because we know it takes a community to support the children. And so we have gifts for you all as well, Dr. Carlisle. So thank you to Zion and Lauren.
Thank you.
And then that's just a token of appreciation for you and the educator, the teacher. Thank you. All right, let's give our Midway Hill students another round of applause. All right, moving on to our middle level, we have our teacher, Miss Jayla Waller, who's going to introduce our student from Georgia College, Early College.
Good evening. My name is Jayla Waller, and I stand before you on behalf of Dr. Schlad and the Georgia College Early College staff to introduce you to our middle school winner, Jessica Biogman, and our high school winner, Rhea Patel. Both ladies are exceptional students in the classroom and are GCEC ambassadors. Congratulations, ladies, and we are extremely proud of you all.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Biogman. I'm an 8th grader in Early College, and my homeroom teacher is Miss Harris. Too many people have or have been victims of racial injustice, criminal injustice, and police brutality. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Casey Goodson, Sincere Pierce, Jonathan Dwayne Price, Rayshard Brooks, Brandon Bernard, and so many others. Too many. When are we going to stop seeing colors and start seeing hearts? I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. The color of people's skin isn't what builds empires, gives to people in need, helps wildlife. The color of people's skin is not what cures diseases, saves lives, or cares for people. It's our character, our hearts. One person who saw this was Martin Luther King Jr. During his time, he led 3 marches and gave over 2,000 speeches. He led nonviolent protests to fight for the rights of African Americans. He dedicated himself to the cessation of segregation so that in the future, people could live together as people. He wanted a bright future for all children. Right now, I'm a little disappointed. MLK lost his life for this cause, and I feel like we should be doing more so that his death is not in vain. At this point, it's bigger than Black lives. We need to fix our breaking country before it completely succumbs to the darkness. One of the biggest things that are hurting our country is police brutality. There have been many cases of this, including George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Tamir Rice. George Floyd was 46 years old when he was killed by a police officer. He had just bought a pack of cigarettes from a grocery store with a $20 bill. The cashier believed it was counterfeit and alerted the police. An officer placed his knee on his neck, where it stayed for 7 minutes and 46 seconds. Thankfully, justice was served, and the man responsible for George Floyd's death, Derek Chauvin, was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Breonna Taylor was 26 years old when she was shot 5 times by a police officer. The 3 police officers came to her home out of uniform when she was in bed with her boyfriend. They heard aggressive knocking and asked who it was. When they heard no reply, Breonna's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, grabbed a gun and approached the door. When the police forced the door open, Walker shot a police officer in the thigh, and another officer blindly shot 10 rounds of bullets, 5 which hit Breonna. When the ambulance was on its way, the 2 police officers were helping their colleague, while Breonna received no medical attention for at most 20 minutes later. But it was too late. No one was charged for the murder of Breonna Taylor. Tamir Rice was only 12 years old when he was shot by a police officer. He was throwing snowballs and playing with a toy gun. The police came and within 2 seconds of arriving at the scene, killed Tamir Rice. The person called the operator and reported Tamir to the police told the dispatcher a juvenile was pulling a gun in and out of his pants, pointing it at people. He told the dispatcher it was probably a fake gun, but the dispatcher never told the officers that Tamir was a kid or that the gun was fake. No one was charged for the murder of Tamir Rice, but his family did receive $6 million 2.5 years later. With police brutality, criminal injustice is a major issue that needs to be fixed. One person who was a victim of this was Archie Williams. He was arrested in 1982 when he was 12 years old. He was sentenced to life in prison and was convicted of attempted murder, rape, and burglary. There was no evidence that he had anything to do with anything on the crime scene. He stayed in prison for 37 years until new technologies came out, with that a new evidence system. He was proven innocent in 2019. He later went to sing on America's Got Talent, where he got a standing ovation. He used to watch it in prison and always wanted to be on that stage, and he did. This victim got a movie telling his story called Just Mercy, starring Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx. His name was Walter Johnny D. McMillian. He was wrongly convicted for the murder of an 18-year-old girl, Rhonda Morrison, despite having evidence that proves his innocence. He was put on death row before he was even found guilty. He stayed in prison for 6 years before Brian Stevenson became his lawyer and helped him get exonerated. Walter McMillian worked to help other people wrongly convicted get exonerated until his death on September 11, 2013, at the age of 71. The real killer of Rhonda Morrison was never found. I want to grow up in a world where things like this don't happen. I want my siblings to grow up in a world where they don't have to work harder than everyone else to get where they want to go. I want my family to live in a world where people don't judge us because of the melanin in our skin. I want everyone to live in a world where everyone is seen as people. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ria Patel, and I am a sophomore at Georgia College Early College, and today the title of my poem is The Promises of American Education. The United States, a land full of opportunity, a place where everyone is equal, where students come to receive the best education possible. That's the stereotype. What does the American education system promise? Is it policing African Americans, Latinxes, and other minorities in schools, making them more than twice as likely as their white peers to deal with law enforcement, expelling them in disproportionate amounts, or continuing to preserve race-gender outlooks? What does the American education system promise? Is it the dehumanizing white supremacy culture, twisting the words of history to paint false pictures about white men, making them villains disguised in a hero's suit, or is it simply an education system that shuts students out when bringing up racial issues? Reducing social inequality starts in schools, and education connects to economic justice as a whole. But how do we fix a system that doesn't even know that it's broken? Do not prioritize test-based funding. It discriminates against those who are at a disadvantage. Reduce class distinctions among students who rely on property taxes as a primary funding source. Low-income students will receive less by default, creating a biased system forced against the success of minorities. Adopt more restorative justice efforts and fewer funding for cops. It will work to put an end to over-policing minority students. No single policy will ensure success in every student, but a combination of approaches can, which is why we, as a society, have to work together to end the poor academic performance of our children. Support the end of capitalism influence in society and support an economy that taxes the wealthy, giving adequate support for public education and low-income families. It takes more than one individual to fix a broken system. It takes a community. Thank you.
I am constantly in awe of how alert and aware of issues that are happening in our society that our students are. Their ability to critically think and assess and to vocalize what it is they're thinking about is amazing. And I think we need to give all of our honorees another round of applause. And now we'll present the awards to our Georgia College Early College students. And thank you also, a token for us, for the educators. And at the end of tonight's ceremony, we'll ask that you all hang around so that we can get pictures of you standing in front of the chambers as well. Thank you again. And we have another winner that unfortunately tonight was not able to join us, but we would still like to share her submission because we think it's important for you all to hear what she has to say. And to introduce and just to give a quick little note about her is her assistant principal, Natalie Stowe.
Good evening. It is my pleasure tonight to introduce Miss Trinity Johnson, who is a sophomore with us at Baldwin High School. And as I was kind of doing a little research on Trinity today, I asked some of our faculty and staff members words that could describe her. And the overarching theme there was talented and passionate. And I know that those talents and that passion is what led her here with us tonight. And so we are very proud of Trinity, even though she couldn't be with us this evening, and we know that she would represent BHS well. Thank you.
So as I said, I think it's important to share the work and to still honor her, and I'll be reading her submission in her place. Trinity writes, in this essay, I'll be discussing the economic injustices of American living conditions, workforce, and the education system according to Martin Luther King Jr.'s book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community. In this book, King focuses on what would be the ideal next step in his examination of American race relations and development following a time of the United States social equality battles. However, King understood that in the following stage in the development would have its own difficulties, as African Americans continued to demand for better job positions, higher wages, decent housing, an education system that's equivalent to whites, and assurance that the rights won in the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 would be implemented by the government. King thought that policies and laws formulated from the establishment of love and equity were the paths forward. King also believed in economic justice, social justice, individual responsibility, and improving race relations. Economic justice is making reasonableness about cash to assist a society. Some parts of economic justice are more simple than others, like paying individuals reasonable pay, while others are more confounded. Economic justice focuses on uplifting the poor like the rest of society. One of the principal objectives of economic equity is lessening neediness and maybe one day killing it. Dr. King advanced a dream of financial equity and uniformity where every individual could work with respect to help themselves and their families. King's view on individual obligation was not to accuse others, society, or how we were raised for our activities. We are all together by and liable for how we act, behave, and think. We decide decisions and missteps, and we should assume liability for it, for our actions and our duty. One of the most common tendencies of human nature is that of placing responsibility on some external agency for sins we have committed or mistakes we have made, she quoted from Accepting Your Actions. King felt that we are forever attempting to find some scapegoat on which we cast responsibility for our actions. Neither Adam nor Eve stopped to realize that although they were tempted by external agencies, they were, in the final analysis, responsible for yielding to the temptation. Ultimately, individual responsibility lies not in the external situation, but the internal response. This demonstrates the point of which Dr. King views individual responsibility in the communities of America. The civil rights movement had assisted black people from various points of view. However, a great many people in the ghettos were still extremely poor. Many had no job occupations, which made life a day-by-day battle to pay the property manager, the butcher, the merchant. Houses were old and overview. There was disorder and yearning. Furthermore, out of this hopelessness came chronic drug use and wrongdoing. For some individuals, there appeared to be no chance to get out of these ghettos. In gloom and outrage, they started to torch them. He had consistently said that segregation and poverty were twin wrongs. The point of isolation, he stated, was to keep blacks poor. Be that as it may, the ghetto riots upset him profoundly, so he turned to leading more marches. Inspired by MLK's viewpoints on the variety of topics, we as a nation, not just teens, could build stronger relationships within our homes by having hard conversations that we often fail to communicate. We could be a decent onlooker, dismissing or interceding when you see or hear practices that help brutality or segregation. Activities that could serve economic equity is to additionally incorporate endeavors to end gender-driven compensation holes and give more exhaustive vocation planning and instruction to low-pay and endangered portions of the populace. Children and adolescents who find a way to contribute will get continuous feedback and gain knowledge that sets them up to flourish as far as education. Ultimately, teens can contribute to education opportunities, economic justice, racial relations, living conditions, and the workforce by individually doing their duties in their communities to make America a better place. King wanted everyone, no matter your economic background, living conditions, skin color, or beliefs, to come together and make a change. However, the first step to do so was to understand our individual roles in our communities. He stated, "People struggling from the depths of society have not been equipped with knowledge of the science of social change. Only when they break out of the fog of self-denigration can they begin to discover the forms of action that influence events. They can then embark on social experimentation with their own strengths to generate the kind of power that shapes basic decisions. Notability, with the goal for things to get better. Before we can do anything else, we must educate ourselves on the struggles in our community." Let's give Trinity a round of applause. So the end of her essay makes a great segue for us to move to the second portion of our program tonight, which is our panel. We have asked some of our Georgia College student leaders to also join our honorees tonight as part of our panel. So I'd like to welcome our student leaders from Georgia College, our Black Student Alliance President, Ms. Nadira Colbert, and our Student Government Association President, Mr. Nathan Graham, to join us at this time. All right, thank you so much, everybody, for being here tonight. This is the portion where we get an opportunity to share and to hear from you. So you've submitted your essays and your poems, and we've heard a little bit about your thoughts, but this is also the time that you can share with your legislators and your teachers or your fellow students messages that you want them to know. So I'll start off with our college students. If you guys will just talk a little bit about your leadership talk a little bit, about your leadership at Georgia College and how King's principles inspire your leadership. So either whoever wants to go first.
Hello, good evening. I'm Nadira Colbert. I'm a sophomore at Georgia College. I'm a pre-nursing major with a Spanish minor and president of Black Student Alliance. For me, being a leader on campus is very important because, as some people know, there's a very small population of Black students on Georgia College's campus, and for us, it's important for us to feel like we matter and we are important. So for us, we like to focus more on making us feel wanted and like we're represented, and that we matter on campus. So we do a lot of events where we try to create a community and that we can rely on each other when times are tough on campus, especially considering what happened last summer during the racial injustice movements, specifically Black Lives Matter. We came together and we talked about how we had a self-care moment a week for us where we talked about the events, and we gave a platform to our members to be able to share their thoughts and their feelings. So for me, it's important to create a space where people feel welcome and where they feel wanted.
Great point. I'm Nathan Graham. I'm the SGA president at Georgia College and State University. I'm a senior political science and economics major. Part of my leadership is building off of what she does, is making a community for all Georgia College students and to make SGA more representative of everyone on campus. I represent 6,000 students. I try and represent also, where I can, the faculty and staff that don't feel heard by their own representative councils as well. And so it's up to me, it's up to everyone within SGA, and I've tasked everyone who comes into SGA, it's like, what is the biggest issue you see on campus? And people come to me with different issues, including the one she brought up, diversity. When we look around Georgia College's campus, it is not representative of either this Milledgeville community, Georgia, or really the United States in general. And that's my part, is to, what can I do using the power that I have to sit there and go, how do I make this campus more representative? How do I provide services to students and faculty and staff to make Georgia College more representative, make it feel more like home that we like to advertise as home, but sometimes people don't feel like it's home. So therefore, what's my job to do to make it feel more like that home in general? It takes a lot of work, don't you worry. It's certainly a task to bear. And this has been an ongoing problem. Diversity at Georgia College is not a new thing. It's something that's been around for every SGA president. It's been around for every student that's come to Georgia Colleges. How do we improve diversity on campus? Have we been doing better? Yes. Are we where we need to be? No. It's certainly a challenge upon itself, along with the other issues on campus that really do kind of tie back to economic justice, is how do we provide those areas for students to be able to afford to go to college, succeed in their life afterwards, just so that we can build up the Georgia College brand together and make students feel like they've gotten something from what they've paid into Georgia College. So obviously a very complicated job. But thank you again for having me tonight.
Thank you. All right, to our K-12 students, so let's start with you, Lauren. We know that these students here at Georgia College, they have official titles because they're in organizations, but that doesn't mean that you're not a leader if you don't have official titles, right? All of you are leaders in some form or fashion at your schools. You may be part of organizations. You may do extracurricular things or have clubs that you participate. So Zion and Lauren, if you'll just share with us a little bit. Lauren, you can go first. How are you a leader, either to your friends or at your school?
I'm a leader at my school to help people and be kind.
And that's important. That's important, right? Zion, how are you a leader?
I'm a leader because I make good choices and I do the right thing.
All very important things. All very important things. And I know I shared with you that not every question will go to every panelist, but this is an important one, so I think we need to hear from everyone. Rhea, how are you a leader at Georgia College, Early College, or in life in general?
At Early College in particular, I'm a leader. I'm an ambassador in our student council, and I am another leader. I am a leader because I try not to follow what others do and genuinely like follow a path that I believe is right rather than looking at everyone else and going and making decisions.
Jessica?
I'm a leader I'm also an ambassador for the student council at Georgia College, Early College. And I'm also a leader because I like to take on responsibilities that benefit other people and not only me. Yeah.
So I'll pose this and anyone can kind of jump in. You all have sort of hit at some of the qualities that make a good leader, but who wants to just expand a little bit on what makes a good leader? We've talked about ethical leadership. We had a guest speaker on Tuesday that talked about ethical leadership and talked about lots of good things. So we want to hear from you. What makes a good leader? Or can you think of someone, in addition to Dr. King, that you would say has been a good leader? And I'll open it up to anyone, so.
Well, for me, what makes a good leader is being understanding, being compassionate, is like being able to understand who your audience or who you're leading, so you understand how to help the problems, how to better make your audience and the people you're leading feel like they matter and that you are accurately representing them.
Who else? What makes a good leader?
I think what makes a good leader is someone who also listens to the people that they're leading and not go like only on what they believe.
You have a thought?
Mm-hmm.
Fine.
Well, a good leader be honest and truthful and a good friend.
All good things. All good things. Can anyone think of anyone in particular that they, in their lifetime, have seen model good characteristics of leadership?
I can speak. No one famous, but my mom today, she's here. She's always been a good leader. She's never been afraid to speak on what she truly believes. She's never hid her opinion from everyone, and she's always passionate about what she believes in.
And that's important, right? Let's give a round of applause. Thank you to all of the support system, both here in our audience, right, and both out there watching us virtually. We know that good leaders aren't individual people on islands, right? Leadership is built based off of the community that surrounds you, that help nourish you and help make the values that you have embedded in you, they help teach them to you. And that's very important. The foundation of a leader and what they were built upon is important. And so we just want to say thank you to all of the leaders out there that are nourishing other leaders and helping them grow. So tonight is Education Night, and I promised you that I would ask about the role of education and its importance. So who wants to tackle that question first? Why is education important? You talked about it a little bit in your essays, but what would a world be without education? Why is it important?
Well, there wouldn't be like politicians or engineers and other people that kind of make the world a better place, I guess.
Absolutely.
I suppose something that, since we're on the topic of praising our parents here tonight, mine aren't here tonight, but they know I love them, is something my dad always told me. And my grandfather never graduated from high school, and so I'm in the second generation of going to college and all of that. Something my dad always tried to push in me is education is something no one can ever take away from you. Whereas a driver's license, something else you earned, yeah, you can get that taken away. But in education, whatever knowledge or skills you gain, the only person that my dad would tell you is the good Lord could take it away from you. But I don't, by his teaching, it's a gracious God, so I don't think he would do that. But that's something no one can take away from you as you go through life. A good education can certainly keep you above and beyond, is what I've always been told.
Absolutely. And as an educator, right, as a product of the Georgia College of Education, I'm very passionate about education. I think it's important in our community to make sure that we are supporting what our students need to help them grow and develop. If you think about every career path that you can think of in your life, it's based upon what? Education, or your level of it, or the lack thereof, right? So if we think about the most essential things that a person can have, education is one of them. And Nathan, I'm so glad that you highlighted that's something that no one can take away from you, right? It's a gift given to you, and it's something that you can continue to expand upon. Do you come out knowing everything? Absolutely not. Can you always learn something?
Yes.
Absolutely. So it's one of those things that continues to grow. It continues to grow. All right. I do want to pose one more question, and I would like for everyone to chime in on this. Since this is Education Night and we are talking about Dr. King, what have you learned from the life of Dr. King, and how are you going to implement it in your own life? Who wants to start? Zion, you want to start us off?
Well, Dr. Luther King said, always love your fellow neighbors.
Very important. And would you say that you're doing that in your day-to-day life, loving your fellow neighbors?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's really important in today's time, right? It's always important, but especially today. That's so good. Lauren, what have you learned from Dr. King?
I learned that he was a leader and not a follower, and then he helped people when people felt down and stuff, and he helped them.
And that's so important, helping people. I can't tell you how many essays and the over 70 that we received, especially at the primary level, those students knew the importance of helping, right? And many of them said, at our schools, they teach us that we have to help people, no matter if they look different than us, if they believe differently than us. They understood that helping was important, because we've all been not helped before, right? And we all know the joy from being helped. And so it may seem like a basic concept, but there are so many people with lots of education that have yet to master that concept. So I think it's a nod to our education system, Dr. Price, here in Baldwin County, that our students understand that from an early age. And it's a nod to what's happening in our homes, parents and family, that our students understand that kindness and helping others is very important. Jessica, what have you learned from Dr. King, and how are you implementing it in your life?
I learned that he never stopped working for what he believed in, which inspires me to do the same.
Absolutely. To keep going, right?
Yes.
Rhea?
From Dr. King, I've learned never to judge. A lot of the times we hear one thing about someone, bad or good, and we tend to judge them as a person, as a whole. But a lot of the times that's not the situation, considering a person's past, a person's present. So I've always, throughout my life, I've tried not to judge people based on one thing until I've actually met them, until I've been with them.
That's awesome, because it's always more than what's on the surface, right? A person always has extra story. We're like icebergs. You can see a little bit on the tip, right, above the water, but underneath there's so much depth. So I encourage you all to keep thinking like that. All right, GC students, you're not left out. What have you learned from Dr. King, and how are you implementing it in your daily lives?
I agree with Dr. King when he says that economic injustice is the root of racism and poverty. And when I graduate from Georgia College with my nursing degree, I want to work in a more rural area or more rural hospital and give back to the community to people who might not have access to health care.
Awesome.
How do you follow that up? That's such a great answer. So many a time, Martin Luther King Jr. would call upon everyone, or call upon the privileged class. The privileged class at the time looked like me, and still are quite a bit in many areas of our government, is privileged white people, to use your privilege to help your fellow man, to help where you can, and to build up everyone. It's not just about enriching ourselves, it's about enriching everyone. Once we enrich everyone with the skills, the knowledge to build a better society, our society will grow. It's just simple economic modeling. And some people, like you said over there, with advanced degrees have not caught on to that message yet. But using what I do is what I'm supposed to do, and what I try to do is use my privilege as SGA president, as someone who is able to get into areas where many people can't, and talk to people and make policies that are equitable, not just to enrich myself, but to enrich others. It's just how we're supposed to be. It's what every major religion talks about. It's what every major political philosophy should be about. And so I think that's what I've taken from it, is calling upon myself to be better, and to be better for everyone and not just myself.
That's awesome. And we all have some form of privilege, right? We all have some way that we can reach down and help somebody else with what we have been given. And I think that's important foundationally for us to do. Well, I want to thank you all so much for being present here with us tonight. We have come to the end of our program, but not the end of King 2021 week. And so we'd like to invite all of you, those of you that are here with us tonight, and those of you that are watching us virtually or streaming live, to join us for the remainder of King Week. Tomorrow we will have our Creative Expressions Night, and that is a night where we come together with music and dance and poetry, and we celebrate the wonderful principles that Dr. King utilized his life and works to share with the world. And so if you're looking for an uplifting time, please join us tomorrow via Zoom. Music can do sometimes what words and actions, it has the power to move us in ways that those things cannot. So we invite you to join us for that. I also, on behalf of the Cultural Center and the Office of Inclusive Excellence and everyone on the MLK Planning Committee, want to thank all of you again for your submissions. Thank you so much to the Baldwin County School System, administrators, faculty, staff, teachers, and all of you precious students. Thank you so much for your contributions and for being a part of this program. Thank you again to our City Council. We hope that we did you justice sitting in your seats tonight, and that you were proud of these students and the works that they shared while sitting in the very important seats that you hold and the work that you do. Thank you also to Georgia College University Communications and to our city manager for allowing this night to happen and to be here. We greatly appreciate you, and we want to just congratulate all of our honorees as being winners of our literary response competition for King Week 2021, and we hope to see you at our next event. Everyone have a lovely night, and thank you so much for joining us.